Hi out there, it's me, Brianna, and you're listening to Are We Caught Up Yet? Marvel Edition. You can find us on youtube.com/SaveTheGameMedia and podcast services. If you do want to show Save the Game Media some extra love and get early access to all of our content, you can find us at patreon.com/SaveTheGameMedia. With all that fun stuff out of the way, today I'm joined by my co-host and friend, Sam. How are you? What have you been watching?
I'm good. Relatively busy as I'm trying to wrap up some IGN coverage.
You finally finishing off one of the games?
That's the idea. Probably not, but you can only hope.
I like your concept of an idea.
Thanks. I have part of a plan. Yeah, I don't know that I have much to say in terms of watching either, really.
Are you caught up on Last of Us?
No, God, no.
Okay.
I've only just done episode 3. So I'm several behind.
How did you feel about 3? No spoilers, just how did you feel about it?
Indifferent, you know.
Okay.
Just sort of played it relatively close to the game in terms of the specific stuff it was doing. So I was sort of, it didn't blow me away, wasn't bad, just sort of middle of the road. I'm still not on board with really the direction they've taken. And that's ironic because, most people are against it because they just don't like the game, whereas I'm against the direction they've taken because I like the game so much. So I will see it through. I will, of course, watch season 3 whenever that comes. But they do have, as I think I've said before, a bit of an uphill battle to win me over. So we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
Sounds good. I'm on one episode behind, so I think we just finished episode 5 last night. So we have to finish. We're going to watch episode 6 during dinner. So.
Yeah. I've heard good things about the newest episode.
I have as well.
Which is, I think, Druckmann directed that one. So, which I from what I gather, is or at least partially the museum flashback.
Yeah, the end of the last episode, they did like a little tiny 5-second flashback. So it's like, oh, here we go. Here we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm enjoying it. There's some things I really love about it. There's some things they changed that I'm kind of like, and overall, every time I watch, because the way that they, which I actually think is pretty cool, because of the way that they've filmed the show, it just kind of makes me want to play the game every time I watch it. Because I can feel those interactions. I can feel how it would play out in the game, And I'm like, I want to be the one that's controlling the game. I want to be the one that's sneaking through people or shooting people or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's cool. But all right. Luna, how are you?
Meow.
She's very cute. That's how she is. I couldn't get up Saturday. I literally could have, but any cat owners know, you just don't get up when your cat's like really cute and cuddling. And so I didn't get up until like 11:30 or 12 on Saturday because she was just like, my whole arm was like a body pillow for her. She like had her arms wrapped around my hand and was like, my hand was her pillow. It was really freaking cute. I have pictures. But she's a cutie. I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
And TV show wise, let's see. I think it's just that. I think it's just Last of Us. Hold on. Scanning my memory. I really want to watch Love, Death, and Robots,
Yeah, same.
but I don't want to name any names, but somebody canceled their Netflix. Could I restart it? Very easily. Yes. Do I want to? No. You know?
Yeah.
Just feels like the corporate people are winning against us. Not really. That's not why I canceled my Netflix, but
Pirate.
I refuse. I feel very strongly about not doing that.
Mm.
The only time that I will do that is if it's something that's literally not available, which doesn't happen very often, but there are a couple of anime that they have not licensed in America in like almost 20 years. And there's like, you can't buy like a DVD, you can't buy it digitally, you can't like watch it on any streaming services. So stuff like that. I'm like, all right, well, what am I supposed to do?
Fair.
That's the only time, which hasn't happened in a long time. But you know, I watched Silent Voice recently. Again, I think for the fourth time. If you guys have not seen that movie, I highly recommend it. It's like, I don't want to say it's like Ghibli-esque because it doesn't have that whimsy that Ghibli does, but I would say that it's like on par with Ghibli quality, and it's got a really good story in it, and great music and stuff. So definitely think you should watch that. I have been listening to / watching the Epic Saga, but I mentioned this briefly yesterday to Sam and Taylor, and neither of them really know what that is. So won't really go off about it too much, but that's basically all I've been doing. If you guys are listening to it / watching it, come into our Discord and let me know. And let me know what your favorite songs are, please. Because I've been dying to talk to people about it. So.
Mm. It's actually
okay.
a musical.
It is.
Mm.
Yes. Yeah. It's a musical based off of the Odyssey.
Well, that's not what I was expecting.
No? What were you expecting?
I don't know. But
It's
it
really
wasn't
good. If I thought you were even kind of into musicals, I would recommend it. The guy who wrote it treated it very much like the music, very much kind of like a Lord of the Rings kind of thing, where like characters get specific instruments assigned to them, so you'll hear like their refrains coming, and like he did like a bunch of, he's like talked about it on TikTok and stuff, but he did a bunch of really cool stuff where he also did like who their family is. So for example, Odysseus's instrument is an electric guitar, and his son's instrument is an acoustic guitar. Because his mom's instrument is like harps and musical things like that. It's like strings and stuff. And his dad, obviously. Anyways, but yeah, so he does a bunch of really cool stuff like that. Or if like if a theme is repeating, like I can't remember. It's mutiny, and it's not Full Speed Ahead. There's two songs that like the same theme happens, like topic wise, like what the characters are talking about. And so he uses like the similar music theme, stuff like that. So anyways, the music is really incredibly well written. And I know you would appreciate like the way the music is written, but I don't think you'd have as much fun because you're not really a musical kind of guy. So
Indeed.
it's okay. I'll be listening to the Claire Obscure soundtrack soon, and we can obsess over that for a little bit.
As people should.
The one track you sent me was so good. It was so good. But sometimes I just feel like I can't listen to it until I've played it. You know? It's like I could add this to my library, but I haven't played the game yet, so I haven't earned it.
I get it.
Okay. Well, question for you. When are we going to be watching Daredevil? I'm just kidding.
Was that a question submitted by Taylor, perchance?
It was. How did you know?
Just had a feeling.
What's the next thing that's coming out? Do we know?
What you mean from like
Marvel?
Up to date to Marvel?
Yeah, well, it's because we have Thunderbolts that just came out.
Yeah.
I was curious what's next.
Well, there's a show next month.
Please tell me it's not What If Season 3.
No, that's already happened.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, yep, it has. And I have it written down here. Okay. Sorry, I was screaming internally.
I could hear it. It's Ironheart is next, the show.
Is that one word?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which you've met the character, but might not remember her explicitly.
Okay. Cool.
She's the young female character in Wakanda Forever with the like Iron Man armor.
I don't remember that.
That's absurd, actually, now that I've given you the context. It's like, oh, there's an Iron Man character in a Black Panther movie flying around in a suit of armor. That's probably stands out a lot, but apparently not.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay, yeah, now I remember her.
And then in July is the next film.
Which is that the Fantastic Four film?
It is.
Okay.
Daddy Pedro.
Oh, I cannot wait. Okay. Well, thanks for the updates.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we also theoretically at some point have watched What If Season 2. Which I did. It's been a couple weeks, but it's fine. Unfortunately, both seasons are... You know what? I'm really hoping my brain absorbs it. We have the discussion, then it spits it right back out, you know? For the most part. There's a couple episodes I'm like, okay, we can keep.
Deary me.
Okay. So we have... I'm just going to go episode by episode, just because I think that that's probably easiest. General thoughts on the whole season. The standalones wasn't a huge fan of. Really love Kahhori. And really loved the concept of like being like going like medieval, like Robin Hood, Marvel. Like I thought that was fun. That's about where I'm at.
Okay.
Any general thoughts that you want to share?
I think it's a stronger season than the first.
Oh, for sure.
Feels a bit more... Well, I mean, the first one did build to something, but it just felt very all of a sudden. Like the last episode, let's just chuck everything that we've done thus far into the frying pan. And it's like, that's okay, but if you're going to have that collision happening, bring everything together, you kind of need to lay the seeds a bit more, and they do that much better in this this season. And I like that it picked up on some threads from the previous season. I also think that on the whole, the what if scenarios are more interesting here. There's a few that don't quite stick the landing, but I think more do than don't, which again, I don't think I could say about the first season. So a noted improvement, but still not quite realizing the potential that I think that the show does actually have.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Bummer. Okay, first one we have, what if Nebula joined the Nova Corp?
Yes.
Let me see. So this is one that, okay, yeah. So this one was like a I've betrayed you, no, I've betrayed you like kind of thing. Where they kept like all outdoing each other without like realizing. Anyways, it was just it was good. It was a little silly. I can't get over Howard the Duck. I'm okay with never seeing that character again. It was fun having something focused on Nebula. And I thought it wasn't like I think that they did a successful story arc with the episode. But I just kind of was like, meh, I don't know.
Yeah, I think like the sort of going for like a neo cyberpunky detective-y thriller kind of thing, at least to begin with. I mean, that is throughout the episode, but like the vibes are most prevalent in the first parts of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool and fits Nebula very well. And I think it's very nitpicky, but I think that the title doesn't really do the episode justice.
No, I agree with that.
Like, it's not really about Nebula being, I mean, it is about Nebula being part of the Nova Corps, but that's not really what the episode is. It's sort of like, I would say more like, what if Nebula saved Xandar or something, you know? Like, and I know that that's minutiae, but like, there's a bit of a disconnect there that my brain latches onto all the time for some reason when I'm thinking of this episode.
No, I think that makes sense.
It's a nice sort of congregation of characters that haven't been seen that much or were underutilized. All of them sort of make sense to be there, maybe with the exception of Howard the Duck, but Howard the Duck is unfortunately is popular. So and I think it's a bit too soon for a live action, you know, so keeping him in the realm of animation.
Okay, but like, have you ever experienced like such uncanny valley, even from an animation? I just feel like it gives me such an egg.
I mean, we've got Rocket, right? Like, he's a talking raccoon.
Yeah, that doesn't give me an egg though.
I know, but like, so a talking duck isn't that much of a stretch.
I don't think that's the problem. I think it might just be the design of his character.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure they can rectify that. Although, you'll be horrified to know me saying too soon for live action. He has actually appeared in live action already. Blink and
Isn't
you'll
he
miss
in the
it.
first? Or is it the second Guardians?
Yeah, that's true. He is in the second Guardians. But he is also he also comes through one of those portals in Endgame at the end. He's in that final fight.
Oh god.
He's there. You see him.
Oh god. No, thank you. All right. Anything else you want to say about this episode? Oh, I liked that Groot was there, but like doing something totally different. Like, I don't know. It was a funny way to see Groot.
Yeah. Sort of leans more into how he was originally portrayed, where he's sort of like, I mean, Groot is always kind of a bumbly idiot, but like he's just passively there and happens to help, but also a lot of the time inadvertently causes problems, that sort of thing. I would say the only other thing I'd mention about the episode is that I don't love how it ends. And that's sort of like just a general critique of everything. Like it feels, with how short these episodes are, that they kind of end just as I'm getting really invested, and like the core premise is picking up steam. Like there is a conclusion to this little story that they're telling, but I almost feel like there was probably a little bit more room to do something past the point where it stops.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but again, that's
They
not very
said-
easy to rectify. So
They said, you got to stop here or else you're going to blow the budget.
yeah, exactly.
Too many ships. That's silly. Okay, well, meh. So, what if Peter Quill attacked Earth's mightiest heroes? So this one is actually, if I remember correctly, minorly a continuation from last season. The last season isn't necessary to understand this episode, but it's, for Peggy at least, kind of a continuation.
Mm.
How did you feel about this episode?
I feel like the premise is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a good what if. Like the whole, the previous one, it's like, what if Nebula joined the Nova Corps? It's like, how interesting is that? They did something interesting with it, but as a base premise, what if Ego did get to Peter Quill, and that didn't pan out the way it did in the second Guardians? I think that's intriguing to see in a more sort of villainous role or antagonistic role. I don't know that the execution lands super well, though. It kind of just feels like a bit of a mess to me.
It 100% feels like a mess. It's like everybody's everywhere. Nobody's paying attention to really anything, doing anything.
Just chucking a random bunch of characters together that, have a good bit of dialogue and, banter between them from time to time, but it just feels like they had a hodgepodge of voice actors and they're like, well, what do we do with these guys? And
yeah, I will say I do think it was kind of like there were a couple things that were kind of cool to see, like having King T'Chaka there. I thought that was kind of cool. I think like having Hope there was kind of cool, like a young Hope. I don't know, like they had like a couple cool things in this. It's like, okay, so if the Avengers like did assemble and it was like much earlier, who would these people be, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's like an interesting question and answer that they posed during this episode. But like you said, the actual execution was so messy.
Yeah. But
so messy.
I like that Bucky wasn't. I like that the team at the end is celebrating, but without Bucky. It's sort of, I don't know. That is a small detail that I liked a lot, because that's sort of emblematic of Bucky as a whole, right? Where he's, what am I trying to say? You'll see, even with something like Thunderbolts, eventually, like Bucky has always been on the outskirts, right? He's in that sort of nebulous gray area.
Pun intended.
Yeah, indeed. I think that of all of the characters in this episode, I feel that they did Bucky particularly well. But then that might just be because of all of those characters presented, Bucky is the one that naturally we're most, attuned with and knowledgeable about because we've seen him the most.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely didn't mind Bucky this episode specifically. But I also don't think I had like really feelings about it. I don't know. I will say I think it's interesting, like the concept, because I think part of what helps Bucky so much is Steve being there. And I just don't think that's the same with Peggy. And I know that that's like they kind of try and sell it that way, right? Where it's like Peggy would also be able to, help Bucky. Peggy would also be able to, I don't know. And I just don't think I agree with that statement because I think that Steve and Bucky were the ones that were close. I'm not saying that Peggy wasn't friends with them, but I also think it was a totally different friendship.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
I don't know. Okay. Anything else on this episode? Just keep chugging along.
No.
Okay. Next is what if Happy Hogan saved Christmas? I really do love seeing Happy. I think that he's a really fun character. And I really enjoyed the inception of this episode, like the very beginning and the setup of everything. But then, like, in the actual execution of, like, when, Happy starts turning into, like, the not Hulk. And, like, they start fighting and stuff like that, it kind of loses me a little bit. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I didn't like the actual fight.
Yeah, well, it's clearly them doing a take on Die Hard.
Yes.
The whole Christmas
Not that I've seen that movie, but yes.
The whole Christmas setting and, a guy sort of going through a big corporate building trying to stop bad guys from robbing the place. That is the setup of Die Hard. And, like crawling through the air vents and stuff like that's Die Hard. And this is probably the episode that bummed me out the most because I feel like this episode would have been way better without the whole Hulk thing. Like, you didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
I would have been perfectly fine with it being a Die Hard ripoff where it is just Happy doing stuff.
I, in fact, would have been more happy with that.
Yeah. It just felt a bit sort of cheesy with him doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad, but just sort of like, okay, you clearly kind of almost run out of ideas and just thought, why not turn him into a Hulk? Then why not? But I will say, nice to have Justin Hammer back. I love Sam Rockwell as an actor. I think it's a actual crime that they had him in Iron Man 2 as the bad guy, and that was it. They didn't use him since. So maybe, we haven't seen him since, but maybe this is a way to kind of bring Justin Hammer back into the fold a little bit. Speaking of Ironheart, not that I'm necessarily expecting to see him in that show, but like, when you've got a show talking about a new sort of successor to Iron Man, like maybe I'd like that, but I don't think it's going to happen. But again, it's like, even with the conceit of Die Hard, they picked the perfect people to do it, the perfect characters for it. Darcy, take her or leave her. I think she's a fun character, and I like Kat Dennings' performance. But outside of that, I think having Happy be like, he's the head of security, so it makes perfect sense. Justin Hammer wanting Tony Stark stuff, but makes perfect sense. So I think that as a sort of carbon copy of Die Hard, they did a pretty good job. It's just that they didn't trust their creative juices enough to not sort of jump the shark a bit and turn him into a Hulk.
Yep. I don't know. I would have been much happier, like you said, if they didn't do that, but we'll see. I don't know. I do wonder what they would have done, because this character does come back in later episodes in the season. So I do wonder what they would have done instead. But I'm sure they would have figured it out.
Yeah.
Oh well. Yeah, I will say it was cool seeing some of these characters, like Maria, Kat, as Darcy Lewis, all that fun stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, cool. It's what this show should be really good at. It should be, via the what if scenarios, giving secondary and tertiary characters, with the occasional like primary character, the ability to shine in unique and interesting ways.
Yep. Okay. Well, oh well. Let's keep going. Next one is, what if Iron Man crashed into the Grandmaster?
Yes.
I'm literally reading. I like literally don't remember this episode.
I mean, it's interesting because it was technically one of the episodes that was supposed to be part of season 1. And they...
Oh, no, I remember it now. Okay.
Pushed it back, which, not that you would necessarily actively remember, but that does explain why randomly in like the last episode and a half of the first season of What If, this armored Gamora shows up out of nowhere.
Love that.
Like, she's part of that team, the multiversal team. So where did she come from? And this is where she came from. Which again sort of makes sense, because at the end of the episode, her and Stark go off to go and kill Thanos, and at the end of season 1 of What If, she had all the Infinity Stones to... Like, it's a fine episode, but it just sort of, it's like, what's the point? Like, I'll give them the concept. Like, in the first few seconds that you think about it, could be interesting. Of like, given how Sakaar was presented in Ragnarok, like, what would happen if some sort of playboy guy like Tony Stark landed on that planet for some reason? Like, okay, I can see how they got there, but it doesn't achieve anything. It doesn't progress anything. It doesn't get us anywhere. It's just like a fun side story, which I guess is fine for them to be. But when you have the majority of the other episodes at least laying, again, like the little seeds, I kind of feel like this is like negligible, which is arguably one of the worst things that an episode can be.
I think my beef with this is, like, I don't really know how much I believe that, like, this one thing could have made it so that they could kill Thanos really quickly. I don't know if I like believe that idea.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, well, I guess, but like also, who cares? Like, I don't know. Oh well, let's just keep rolling, I guess.
Yeah. Sorry.
What if Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper? Is the next one.
A good one.
You liked this one?
I did. Because it's
I'm just kidding.
Following on from the very end of season 1, when Natasha and Peggy find Steve in the suit. And I think that, again, like playing with these ideas and bringing in additional characters that make sense. You know, Romolo, who's Crossbones, which is like a very tertiary character that was in a couple of the films, and then bringing in Melina from Black Widow, having the spin of Rogers sacrificing himself to destroy the Red Room. I don't know. I think that the Natasha and Peggy duo work really well. In the same way, to be fair, that Steve and Natasha worked really well together. Yeah, I just think every aspect of this, it has compared to something like the first episode, I feel like the arc that this episode presented didn't feel as rushed. It sort of had a well-paced beginning, middle, and end, I think, with the little stinger on the end to begin wrapping things into the overarching. So I think it has a bit of everything.
Sorry, you cut out there for a second. It has a bit of what?
A bit of everything, like the thrillery stuff from like Winter Soldier. It's got the action. It's got that interconnectedness at the end that's feels like it's building towards something, like real stakes in the episode. I feel like compared to that Iron Man episode, where like nothing happens, nothing of consequence, you know, we don't finish where we started, but nothing much has changed really. Like this has fundamentally shifted sort of Peggy's character in particular, you know, losing Steve. So yeah, I think it's really good.
Yeah, I think that it was good. I feel like I could have, I don't know, I think I could have done like a little bit less action, but I think that's just more of a personal preference thing. But yeah, I thought it was okay.
How dare you?
I thought it was okay. But I will say the emotional piece towards the end and like how it's actually played out later, I appreciated the setup. So
yeah,
I'll say that much. Next one, we have what if Kahhori reshaped the world? I thought
clearly the worst episode of the season.
This was an incredible episode. And I actually could not believe how incredible this episode was. Didn't even feel like I was watching the same show, to be honest. What about you? How do you feel?
Terrible episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. God awful. No. I mean, it's very clearly the best episode of the season, which is pretty crazy considering. I mean, I guess it demonstrates a different approach in contrast to what I was just saying about giving secondary and tertiary characters room to breathe. This episode shows a different approach that can be equally, if not more, impressive and effective, where it introduces a brand new character that we have no context for, have no understanding of. And, speaking of all of the episodes feeling really rushed, you would think that having to introduce this new character and lay at least a little bit of groundwork for them to have an arc through the episode would feel even more rushed, and somehow it doesn't. I mean, that's not to say like the pacing is like breakneck throughout most of these episodes, of course, just due to the runtime, but it doesn't feel like we're just whizzing past the contextual information that we need to feel emotionally attached to Kahhori and sort of to root for her. So, and it's also not only clearly same as like Echo was, like excellent for representation, but also like, I don't know, there are plenty of cool and also very powerful female characters in the MCU, but I feel like there's something that feels different about Kahhori. And I don't know whether that's just because of how different she is to everybody else, because it gives almost like a Steve Rogers, right, where in essence she is clearly in some way, shape, or form going to be like a woman out of time, but that's in a way that's different to like Peggy, where she is just like a direct one-to-one of Captain America, of Steve.
Yeah, I feel like to that point specifically, I feel like she has kind of like the feeling of like, I think it's what they were trying to sell with Captain America, right? Where it's like he's like a true hero that has like no other motivations, and then you kind of find out that he does have other motivations, kind of thing. She feels like a more like pure vision of like what a true hero would be, because she doesn't just stop at like, right? She doesn't just like, hey, I'm going to save my people. She like brings peace, right? She reshapes the world, as the episode is absolutely named. And I think that that's a really cool concept for a hero, and I think that it makes her very, very different. Yeah, that just to the point of what you were saying.
Well, and like handled correctly, she could kind of have like in universe like a mythology around her, in the same way that, not that we've seen a lot of it really, but like in the same way that someone like Thor would have, where he's a literal Norse god. So you have this kind of like mythology and folk tale built up around her, where she is this, super powered Mohawk legendary entity that has sort of, ascended space and time and can do all of these wonderful things. And I think that roping in like that kind of those cultures into that mythology, like embedding it in that, I think is really potent.
It's
and obviously
really incredible.
I can't speak to that. Neither of us can, because we're not embedded within that culture and those communities. But to see it even as a bystander is powerful. So I can only imagine what it must feel like for people who do resonate with it on a much deeper level and more personal level. So
yeah, and I mean, like, not to mention, like, this whole episode is like, I would say like 95% not in English, if not higher.
Yep.
Like they're not speaking English. They speak, I really don't know what they speak. I can't remember the name of the language. Hold on. Nope, it's left my brain. But they do speak Spanish as well, like in the episode. Hold on, let me see if it gives me a language. If
I mean,
click
they're Mohawk, so I assume there is a Mohawk dialect.
yeah, but I just can't remember. They say what they're speaking, like in the subtitles. It says like such and such being spoken. Language is used. She speaks, it just says the Mohawk language. Oh, it's really difficult to pronounce. Yeah, that's not going to be coming out of my mouth, but it's Kanien apostrophe Keha.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's, I apologize. I would try, but it does say her name means she stirs the forest and holds cultural significance within that community.
That's pretty sick.
That is really cool.
And like for context, not that it changes anything, but this isn't a character from the comics. They made this character for the show.
I'm so glad you said that, because that was for real going to be one of my questions.
Yeah. So this is an original character.
That like not devastates me, but like I want to see this character. I want to see so much more of this character.
Oh, well, I guarantee you we're going to.
Oh, please.
Not only in the films, hopefully, please God, but also I imagine she's gonna have, maybe not like specifically her own comic, although I'd love that, but she'll be in the comics, no doubt.
For sure. I'm not worried about the comics as much as, because I don't read the comics.
No, yeah.
I'm more worried about the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh yeah,
for selfish reasons.
With how well she's been received, like the entire What If audience has like taken her in with open arms and been like, if there's one thing you decide to carry on with from this show, it's Kahhori. So
I will say they're going to have to figure out what they're doing with the character, because part of the concept, right, is that as like Ragnarok happens earlier and the Tesseract gets sent to Earth like super early, and that can't happen in like the world that we're watching the MCU unfold within. Like, it's just not possible for that to happen. So they'd have to figure something else out where it's like Loki accidentally dropped the Tesseract on Earth and it messed with the environment, and then they come back to retrieve it, or I don't know.
Well, I mean, that, or I would argue the far more simple explanation is that with all the multiverse stuff going on, they just bring in this Kahhori from
this universe.
A different universe.
Yeah, they definitely could do that.
Which I think is probably what they're going to do.
I could see them doing that. The only reason I worry about that is because she has, like, her world has found like some sort of peace in a way that like the one we're watching hasn't. And the reason I point that out is because like she has clearly like so powerful on her own that she has brought the whole world to peace. And I don't know how much, like, I don't know how that much power will interact with everything that's trying to unfold, you know?
We have a lot of very powerful people nowadays.
Yeah.
So there's a balancing act. I don't know. Don't depower people. Don't kill them off. Don't sideline them. Just figure out interesting dilemmas. And I would be perfectly fine, for the record, by having Kahhori as a character that, with her abilities, could feasibly sort of portal her way into this universe to help restore peace to this one, to our one.
But why
And
didn't she come
then-
the first time then?
Well, good question. She's just selfish. Actually, she's not that great of a character. She's super selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And then once things are resolved, she can go back to
Yeah.
the universe. Not necessarily permanently, but like she can come and go as she pleases. Which I think is, again, if we're talking about how do you get around the fact that she's super strong, well, maybe the way that they get out of that is the same thing they've done with Captain Marvel, right? Where like, why isn't Captain Marvel here? Oh, she's dealing with something off in space somewhere. So why isn't Kahhori here? Oh, well, she's dealing with something back at home. You know, she's facing down another threat. The conquistadors have come back or something, you know. And that would logically be like, oh, well, I get why she would prioritize that over helping out this other universe, which is like very convenient, but also I think that's kind of the concessions you have to make when you are so deeply wrapped up in the multiverse stuff. So
yeah. Well, I mean, it's just too bad that like they weren't able to keep the villain that they were setting up. And now, as of where I am, there's no other villain being set up for this Avengers thing. So, hey, gotta love it.
Maybe that changes.
Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Okay. Next we have what if Hela found the 10 rings?
Yes.
I have very mixed feelings on this episode. There was so much about it that I enjoyed and so much about it that I just did not like. I think part of my beef is like I wish that they had done something a little bit different with Hela's character design, which I know is such a nitpicky thing, but it really was driving me crazy. I also feel like this one felt very rushed with like the training.
Yep.
Which is kind of a bummer. But I also think that there were some really cool concepts like Hela standing up to her father, like, and confronting him about the way that he's treated her, right? Like, you've created me into a weapon, and then the moment I'm no longer useful to you, you've thrown me away. Like, you made me into this war machine, and then when I am what you made me, you're mad at me. I thought that whole concept was really cool. I liked seeing, you know, everything from like all those other characters from like Shang-Chi and stuff. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it's a nice blending of ideas where it's sort of like the banishment that you see in the first Thor, of stripping Hela of her powers, and then she's sent down and she encounters people that helps her, you know, much in the same way that the first Thor film plays out. But again, talking about things that haven't been utilized enough. I like seeing Tarlo again. I like Wenwu being there because it's like that's such a shame that they decided to kill him off in Shang-Chi, even though like I get it, you know, it makes sense in the story, whatever. But it's cool to see him again. Nice to see Heimdall as well. Always. So but again, it's another one, especially with where it comes, following on from how the last episode ended. It's like that stop-start thing where Strange Supreme shows up and like goes to speak to Kahhori, and you're like, oh, interesting. And then you get an episode where nothing happens of that sort. At least this one is like an interesting concept, and I think handled for the most part pretty well in terms of its execution. And like you were saying, like the themes and the message that it's touching on. and how it ends off with her sort of taking over Asgard and the Ten Rings. And I guess like at the very end, she's helping save Gamora, right, and her planet from Thanos. But like, if I think realistically, now that I'm thinking about it, my primary issue with this episode, which is stupid to say, I guess, is where it's placed in the season.
I think if it was even one episode, like if it was flipped with the episode before, it would have been fine.
Yep. I mean, I would have loved for this to have again sort of folded in somehow. Not that everything has to, but when other things are, it feels strange when the other things don't. But yeah, I'm with you. I think if it had come the episode before and then you had the momentum off of the Kahhori episode into the next one we're going to talk about, I feel I would have probably been not like way higher on this episode than I am, because I'm still pretty positive on it. But it just feels weird that they would sort of shoot themselves in the foot just as things started picking up, and then sort of by proxy making this episode feel a bit lesser and like, get out of the way so we can get back to the other stuff, you know. That's not doing this episode justice. So I don't know what the logic was behind the ordering of episodes, really.
Wouldn't that just be nice to know?
It would. It really would.
Oh well. Oh well.
Oh well.
Excuse me. Okay, next one is what if the Avengers assembled in 1602? I kind of agree on because you said for one of the episodes, like the name doesn't really make sense the first episode. I think this one also is a little bit misleading. Not that I'm super mad about it, but I do think it's a little bit misleading.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of vaguely encapsulates in the same way that the first episode does. Like, I guess
it like encapsulates like a second of time.
Yeah. So I don't know what they would have called this episode necessarily.
Wanda Merlin. Sorry, I didn't catch it. That was her name.
Yeah. Yeah. But I, to the episode's credit, I think that this is, again, I guess the third prong of what this show can do really well, where it just presents, as long as they're executed well, completely off the wall ideas that you literally couldn't do in live action, really. And I don't know, I mean, me being like a Shakespeare nut as well, like this episode obviously kind of does something for me as well, so I might be biased in that regard.
Yeah, I think that they chose the characters really carefully. I thought they did some really cool stuff. Right, like we see like Wanda Merlin. We have Sir Nicholas Fury. I think that's really fun. And then we have like basically Robin Hood.
Mm-hmm.
And of all the people to throw with them, to put Scott Lang in there is so perfect. I was not expecting him to be in there, but it was so perfect that it really cracked me up. Yeah. And also we find Bruce, but he's like kind of put himself in jail. He's like, no music, I don't want to hear anything. Like, don't talk to me. Like,
mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was the whole thing was it was fun. And I thought that they chose some really cool characters. I will say, I'm not gonna lie, this was 100% my favorite version of Steve Rogers. Like, what's going on there, you know?
How could I have? Did I guess that was coming? I think so. I think I did.
He's just so handsome.
Yeah.
I have to write this down on my simplest, you guys. Okay, let's put him at spot 8. Steve Rogers, parentheses, what if outlaw version only? Okay. It's officially added, you guys. Ugh, why can't we have this kind of Steve Rogers? What a bummer. Anyways.
Sorry.
And he's so romantic too, because it's like, obviously we find out that like he's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, I just want to be with you. Ah, yeah. So romantic. So romantic. I don't know. I had a good time. Obviously, Stark's there too. He's like still a crazy inventor, even though it's totally a different time. I don't know. There's just like so many really cool little small moments. I had a lot of. I think this one was for me the most fun, where it was like these like little silly moments, and I think that the time, like the way the story flowed, worked really well for me. Didn't feel like super rushed. Didn't feel like super slow. You know, just was a good story, good time. And again, we're talking like I think like Carter and Rogers like story, like the way that they like just can't seem to like be together no matter what.
Yeah. Which sort of clearly intentionally feeds in very well to what the culmination is, right?
Mm-hmm.
We sort of have these two characters who are experiencing the same thing, but are processing it in very, very different ways.
Yeah, it does. Like I do wonder, like if you know somebody is like your person, like love of your life, every single timeline you would choose them, and you just can't seem to make it work out. Like, who wouldn't go crazy from that, you know? Obviously, you know, Captain Carter, but like I just feel like that's so sad, you know? I don't know. That's a really like for me, I really love romance stories, and for me that's like a really heart-wrenching story.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about Robin Hood and his band of merry men?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I will say at this point and like I do not trust Wanda, and so I was like, she has to be the bad guy here. But you know, it turned out okay.
Did
Okay.
so mistrusting.
Yeah. Well, what can you do?
I mean, she did, I guess, turn to a bit of a bad guy for a bit there. So in that one thing, so I guess you have justification.
Okay, last one. What if Strange Supreme intervened? This episode felt like it was going on forever. And it felt like the same thing kept happening. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like maybe I just am crazy, but like it just was like, okay, new enemies, okay, more enemies, okay, like he's still not dead. He's still not dead. He's still, like I don't know, it just like the same thing kept happening over and over again. I was just like somebody just stop this, please. I don't know. I was ready for the episode to be done.
It's interesting because like as a whole, I think it works well. Like it logically makes sense that this is where everything would culminate.
I agree.
But speaking of like season one's ending feeling rushed. I almost feel like, and it's not quite the same, but it to your point, it almost feels like we're retreading the same territory, where there is this. I mean, I guess it doesn't help that Strange Supreme was like a relatively big presence in the first season as well, from his episode onwards. So it's like, I guess that sort of makes sense. But yeah, it does kind of feel like we're just doing the same thing again, where there's this super powerful thing that is trying to use powers, people, abilities granted by accessing the multiverse to accomplish something.
Yeah. I don't know. I will say, like, I don't even just mean like season 1 to season 2. It's a repeat, which I did find like that whole thing a little bit annoying, where it's like, hey, you already said that you figured out that you guys can never be together, but now you're like back on this again. Ignoring that, like the entire episode was like, more enemies are coming in the room, and they repeat that same thing over and over again, where it's like, like every time something happens and they need a distraction, they just release more enemies. Every time like they start to beat him, there's, he gets new powers, or like she gets new powers, or like, and they keep repeating that like back and forth, where it's like they're like upping the stakes over and over and over and over again, the whole fight. And it feels like nothing happened.
Yeah. I mean, again, like it sort of all makes sense that they would want to ramp everything up for the finale. I'm with you that I just don't know. It's something that I can't even really quantify. It just sort of doesn't quite work. Like all the individual elements sort of make sense, that you would bring back something like Killmonger,
Yeah.
and the Infinity Stones. Think like, okay, that makes sense, in the same way that you're bringing Strange Supreme back and rolling all of that in, and what happened to him in the first season. Like, cool. But yeah, it's speaking of that episode we were talking about earlier, it just sort of feels messy, but in a different way. Like this doesn't feel, as much as it is the same thing over and over again and just enemies, it doesn't feel like they're just chucking everything in the kitchen sink here. Like everything makes sense to be here.
Yeah.
But it just sort of feels like they're running in place.
Yep.
The whole episode.
That's exactly it.
There isn't a progression to it. They're ramping up the stakes, but it still doesn't feel like it's going anywhere until it's there.
Yeah. Like imagine two people on treadmills facing each other, running as fast as they can at each other.
Looking really angry.
Yeah. That's what we watched.
Yeah.
I will say the one thing that for me, besides Kahhori, because anything she's in now just works for me. The one thing that like really worked for me is like you were saying from like the previous episode, like the concept of like we're experiencing like Strange just can't be with Christine no matter what he does. And Carter can't be with Rogers no matter what she does. Like I appreciate that, like the AB, as well as like the concept of that.
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy that piece. I
Yeah.
swear to God, if we do this in season 3, I swear to God, if we have to do this again, I'm gonna freak.
Yeah, and I like that it kind of, you have the diametrically opposed but the same characters with Carter and Strange. But I also appreciate that this episode showed that what Strange was doing wasn't in vain. Like he did technically bring back his universe as he wanted to and bring back Christine. But the irony in it is that, yeah, obviously he did sort of despicable things to accomplish it, but he did what he set out to do. But by doing what he set out to do as the only way to make it happen, that the status quo remains the same. He can't be with Christine, you know?
Yep.
Like, he can't be with Christine for one reason, because she's dead and gone because of what he did. And then he does something else that brings her back, but he has to sacrifice himself to achieve that. And I think that, not that this episode really has the runtime to delve into that, but that does present an interesting potential area of character development for Strange Supreme as a villain, where, you know, we in that moment kind of understand that he knows he's in the wrong, and he sacrifices himself, not just so that Christine can live, but so that Christine can live. And that kind of, in my mind at least, proves that clearly he loves her, but that he's not doing it purely for selfish reasons. You know, like, he's not doing it so that he can be with her. Obviously, that's a part of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think that I get what you're saying. It's not 100% selfish, but I do think he also benefits from it.
Of course.
So it's like, it could also be something where he's framing it in a non-selfish way, because people do that sometimes, where it is a selfish decision, right? Like, this is what I want, but because it's benefiting somebody else, I'm going to frame it as if it's helping the other person. But I don't know. It's hard to say for sure, but I do understand what you're saying. Long story short.
It at least introduces the concept of a bit of moral complexity to him, where before he was kind of just an outright villain, and that doesn't change the fact that he's still a villain. But I think there is that, to me at least, a splash of redemption is the wrong word, but he sacrifices himself to the Forge, and that brings Christine back. So I think there is a way in which you can read it that he knows that he isn't going to get to be with Christine, but if he can bring her back and let her live, that's enough. And that might be giving him too much credit, but I think that you can, there is a read there.
I do think it's giving him a little bit too much credit. I do understand what you're saying and where you're coming from, like where you're drawing that from. But even if that is the truth, like, even let's say that that is the case, historically we've seen that this especially this version of Strange is a little bit selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say he's like, you know what, I'm happy to just watch her be happy and exist. Realistically, is that actually going to happen? You know, like, is he going to sit and watch her for 5 years and be like, I can't do this anymore? Like, I have to be with her. And then it just happens all over again. I don't know.
Maybe.
But I definitely understand your read on it. And I would want that for him. You know, a little slice of happiness, even in something that's so sad. But
yeah.
All right. Well, That's the whole season, y'all. Let's not do this again. Oh wait, there's another one. At least the other one's one episode shorter, I guess.
But they're all twice as long.
Are they for real? Don't mess
No.
with me. Oh god. I almost threw up. I wish that they would just hire the people that are actually doing the Love, Death, and Robots stuff. Like, if you want to do Love, Death, and Robots, just do Love, Death, and Robots. You know?
I'm not opposed to the idea.
It'd be pretty dark.
Hey.
They should reconcept. What if yogurt took over again, but it's Marvel?
No, we don't need to do that one, no.
Oh, it was such a good one, though.
No, not really.
And then they just abandoned humanity. So good. So good. Okay. A couple of things we have left. Let's see. We added to the simplest already. We got to do some ranking. Oh, dear God. Okay. Where do I want to put this? I'm going to put this. Oh, God. Did I really? I just feel like I put season 1 so much higher than it should have been. Let's put it down here. I'm reordering a little tiny bit. We're going to put What If season 2 right above What If season 1 because it's better, obviously, because Kahhori, but it's not that much better. Okay. I'm putting it at spot 40 on my list. That's kind of where it's at. It's below Daredevil season 1, just above season 1 of What If.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? Where are you wanting to put yours?
I mean, I'm not even jumping on the bandwagon. It's going to sound like it, but I am also putting it directly one spot above What If season 1.
I don't blame you. It's like same, but like maybe just a tiny. It's like the same thing, but like this time they used a tiny bit of salt to flavor it, you know?
I don't know I would have ever used that description.
You're welcome.
I didn't say thank you.
You didn't have to. Okay. We also have what are we watching next? My list is Deadpool 1, but I'm going to look to you to see if that's how we still feel.
Correct.
Okay. Then so it shall be. Next we'll be watching Deadpool 1, which I assume is just called Deadpool.
Indeed.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for watching and taking the time to hang out with us today, or listening, I guess. Special shout out to our current patrons. We have Alpaca Tom, Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Nikolai at Night, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, David Hartright, Dave Harp, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Lee Navarro, Silicanet, Rick Davis, and Todd Oxtra. Thank you guys so much for your support. Sam, where can people find you?
Anywhere and everywhere at Sam Heaney, Heaney.
Okay, you can find me at Fabulous Brianna, FABULAST BREANNA. You can find Save the Game Media at Save the Game Media most places, except for Twitter/X, if anybody is even still using that. It's Save Game Media there. Ooh. Yuck. We will see you guys when we see you. Bye.